Hello YouTube friends, welcome to the Red Parrot channel. I am your host, Mary Ellen. This episode is the January episode of hashtag 2023 Holiday Crafting, co-hosted by Maria at Maria's Miscellany and Sheree at Turquoise Dreaming, who we know from Thrifty Thursdays. Here's the description of what this entails. So it's the hashtag 2023 holiday crafting. On the 25th of every month, they have an opportunity for us to work on holiday, not Christmas necessarily, but holiday junk journaling related stuff. So January's embellishments, February's clusters, then envelopes, handmade gifts. May is collage masterboard, June gift wrap, July is a non-holiday item used for holiday projects, bags and sacks. September is bead dangles, October cards, November is ephemera, and December is ornaments. This is a great idea, I think, because it allows us to sort of spread us over time as opposed to just doing some panic crafting the day before. Won't prevent us from doing the panic crafting, but it certainly will be a reminder that, hey, it's the 25th of something, next month is going to be whatever holiday, and we can maybe get a little bit of a jump start. So January's embellishments, and what I want to do is try a tutorial, or at least a demonstration. Let's call it a demonstration as opposed to a tutorial, because a tutorial suggests that it's going to be more complicated than this. So what I would like to do, so I'll show you our end state. Our end state is going to be these pleated ruffles. I adore these pleated ruffles that I make out of various kinds of ribbon. This is Sheree silk. It's one of my favorites. What you can do once you have this base done is you can put in additional trim or whatever, and you can glue it down the middle. You could use it on the, do I have any pages? You know what, let's use an old glue page. So what you would do, and you absolutely know where I'm going here, you could use that as a lush frill. You could use it as trim on a spine. You could use it as, if you have a fairly narrow ribbon, you could use it as an edging on a pocket. Anywhere you want to be able to put it, you can. And it's nice to be able to know how to make it yourself. What I'm going to try and demonstrate, because I don't have the gear set up at my sewing machine, is show you the principles here, and maybe also see if I can't do some hand stitching. So if you don't have a sewing machine, if all you have is needle and thread, we should be able to see you sorted as well. So that's number one. I am going to be using Sheree silk, which comes in a bundle like this. And I've already got threads all over. So much fun. I get my Sheree silk from Etsy, from Captain Yarn at captainyarn.com. He's also on Etsy, and he's based in Montreal, and he sells a variety of colors, either all of one color, all of a plain color, lots of, I usually get variegated because I don't know what I don't usually have enough to be able to do one whole thing. Getting a variety of colors is great. So they come in these hanks. I think there's about 50 yards, it's about 100 grams, I think. Even just one is gonna see you through several journals. So that's what it looks like when it arrives. Then you kind of undo it, and I'm not going to undo this one because there's no getting it back together again. It looks like this, which is all pretty crinkled. Here's another better example that you can see with the letter color. Wrinkle, 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 wrinkle. Not at all like this. So you know where I'm going. Step one, you gotta iron it. Under ironing tips, what I would recommend is make sure you put your setting on the kind of fabric that you are ironing. I know it sounds straightforward, but the difference between a linen or a cotton, which takes a very, very high heat, and a polymer like polyester will melt at that high heat. Silk needs a fairly low temperature as well, so just keep that in mind. So once you get some ironing done, you'll get lovely strips that end up looking like this. And what I'm going to be working on today, if you'll notice the colorways that I'm pulling out here, is Easter. And then there's one last one here that's a nice purple. There we are. And then a purple. And so what I want to be able to do is do some ruffles. So let us take, how should we go about this? Let's try doing this with a bit of paper first so that you can sort of see it in slow motion, and then we'll try some fabric. Ooh, this is excellent. So we're just going to use a small sort of sample piece here. There we are. And because I don't have a sewing machine to be able to anchor things, I am going to use a pickle jar to be able to anchor, but I don't want to have that impede our way, so I'm just going to use a liter of this ribbon, just so that we can get it off camera, and all we have to focus on then is the actual pleating. So, oh, come on, sort yourself out. There you are. And, oh, I forgot my tool. The most important part of all of this, my pleating mechanism. So what do we have as our fancy pleating mechanism? I have a plastic fork. Now, some pieces of information about this plastic fork in particular, and I'm just going to use the white backing so you can see it. Thing one, I have taken these two tines off, and that is to make it far more efficient because we are going to be threading the fabric through these two. If I had these two remaining, I wouldn't necessarily get a consistent measurement every single time. So I've just used a takeout plastic fork, popped off the two tines, and then I have something consistent. The other thing that I have done is I have painted one of the sides. So top is different from bottom, and it's easily recognizable when you're getting up to speed. And that is so that I am consistently doing the same movement over again, and I know that my position is sort of the top position. Once you get started, you'll find your own way. The tines and the measuring one side versus the other might help you no matter what your style ends up being. So how do we do this little puppy? So imagine I have a sewing machine here. I've got a first couple of stitches anchored. What I'm going to do is I'm going to thread. So I have these two tines. I am going to put this tine under and this tine over. And then I am going to turn it all the way. And then that gives me this little pleat. So let's do it up here, little pleat. And because this is paper, we can just fold it. And so I'm going to do it again. When you use material, you can move the pleats around a bit, and it's a bit easier. But essentially, that's what I am doing. And you can see how quickly it builds. Oops. And also how generally consistent would be. So I would be, this was at my sewing machine, I would have sewn to here, pleated, sewn to here, pleated, sewn to here. When you're sewing, you want to make sure that you're catching the next part. So you need to go slightly past here for the next turn. Don't go to the end, just catch it so that you have it anchored either by the zipper foots or by the stitches themselves. So that's in principle, what you can do. And quite frankly, you can do paper as your trim. I mean, this doesn't look half bad, actually. You pick the right color. Bob is essentially your uncle. I wonder if this can get one more out of it. Yeah, I can. One more. Oops, that's not pretty. It'll be better with fabric. And so that's essentially how we get the pleat. So let's try a piece of actual fabric. I wonder if this would be easier to see. I've got lots of ribbons here that we can do. I didn't know what this. Sure, let's try it. If it doesn't work, we can always fix it in post. So if we're doing this by hand, we need some pins, we need a needle, and we need some thread. And I've got the serious fabric scissors out for this. There we are. You don't need this 2-ply, I'm just doing that because I inadvertently took off a lot of thread. And just do a quick coulter's knot. There we are. Okay, so exactly what we did with the paper. Bottom underneath, you're going to turn, and you've got your first pleat. So let's take a few pins. So I think that's going to be easier than sewing one by one. There we are. Oops. We don't want to. Okay, this may not be the best material because the edges don't want to pleat, but we're getting pleats anyways. Oi! It's killing me. We may abandon this. I am so glad I didn't call this a tutorial and it is a demonstration. Oh, we're getting there. Do a couple more. There we are. We'll stop there and then we'll go on to the sari silk. And so, the needle, your hand sewing. So once you get a certain distance pinned, all you're going to do is get it caught up in the paper. There we are. Jeepers creepers. Gotta check to make sure you're still, yep, we're still in here. And all I'm going to do is just some back stitching. And top pin's done. I suppose you could also glue it if you wanted to. Just put like little drops of glue or Fabri-Tac. I'm not much of a gluer when it comes to fabric. I'll have to be honest with you, but that's just me. I absolutely support anybody who can make anything with any method. And watching people do things differently from me often gives me ideas about how I do my own making, which is always pretty great. Okay, and I'm going to tie that off so we can stop. And compared to, so we've got 3, and now let's do the Sheree silk to hopefully see if we can't get something that looks a little bit more pleasant. That doesn't look very pleasant. The paper does. Paper looks all right. Let's use this pink. Again, just doing an anchor so that I can have it held and be in view. At least I'm hoping I'm in view. Yes, I am. Okay. Needle and thread out of the way. And there we are. Yes. Silk works much better. %100%. So it's possible to do it with that other, but choosing a smooth fabric, I think, is something that would be very useful. The other thing that you could do, if you are worried about all of this sort of fringe and fabric flying all over the place, because this feels, or could feel a little bit chaotic, is iron it. So iron the pleats before you start the sewing. But if you have a sewing machine, the sewing machine gives it the stability as you were sewing it because of the zipper foot. And just because of, oh dear, didn't do that one right. Come on, there you are. Wow, this does go better on the sewing machine for me. But I did want to show the possibility of doing this via hand, because I know there are lots of people that don't have sewing machines, and knowing that it's possible. And then also showing this tool as being really the essential pleat maker, and then other materials that you can use to create the pleat. Oh, I have not. Glad we checked. I'm just going to be slightly fancy with this one. Oops, I'm going to be fancy, but I'm also going to catch it on my ruler. Okay, clean up on all 5. I've got too many pins out. So I'm going to see if I can't just do a bit of a cross stitch. Oh, that's not bad. And then I'm going to just do some straight stitching. To keep it moving. Now, I don't know if I have convinced anyone that this is possible, or just convinced everybody that, yeah, it's worth it to buy it. And you know, either is fine. But I think it is, if you have a particular piece of fabric that you want to create a trim of, and you want to do a couple of pleats, like I say, this piece of high-tech technology is for sure what I use. I don't ever use a ruffle foot on my machine. I think if I ever wanted to do a ruffle, I would just sort of what would I do? What would I do? Let's think about this for a minute. What would I do? Oh, I know what I would do. What I would do is first baste it. Create the ruffle, and oh my goodness, you don't want to go. There we are. No, that's another one that, no. Catches on a lot of pins. And this is also catching on a lot of the, it's the only downside to Sari silk is that it frays like bananas. Didn't. There we are. It's possible. There we are. Now, this looks a good sight different than the one that I did on the machine because we've trapped all of these. Which you might want to keep. I'm not sure. Depends on what you're sewing, what you're making. Oh, it was a thread that got caught. So side by side, I think it'll be a little bit. Oh, I've got to do it the right orientation. And it's not awful. I think I might be tempted to put a maybe 2 rows down, and certainly if you did a secondary trim on top, it would look both lush and it would cover a multitude of sins. Like if you, I think I had some of this that had gold rickrack pasted down the center. Is there anything else that I was gonna show you? I don't think so. I think that's my demonstration. Hope you give it a try. Feel free to try it first, even if you're going to use the sewing machine on a piece of paper first. Don't use your fashion fabric as your first test. And, you know, think of other ways that might make it easier for you, given your style and your method. That's all for now. Thanks so much for watching. Always appreciate your company. Always appreciate your support. Please like and follow for more, and feel free to follow along at 2023 Holiday Crafting with Maria at Maria's Miscellany and Sheree at Turquoise Dreaming. Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye now.